welcome back to my Subaru for daily devotions. I am in Scotts Valley. Just dropped off a bunch of packages with handmade, with love by my wife, face masks for people all over the place here in the valley, back in the Central Valley, and many other places. And so what a blessing my wife is to so many people, that she is able to do something she absolutely loves, and something that will hopefully help people remain healthy and safe during this very critical week here with COVID-19. Well, we are doing an in-depth look at the final hours of Jesus' life, and we've just spent some time in the garden as Jesus has prayed so intensely and in such agony that he actually sweat drops of blood. But when he finally surrenders and he says, "Not my will, but yours be done," he gets up and he gets his disciples. And it's at that moment that Judas enters into the garden, or more literally, an orchard, with a ton of soldiers, Roman soldiers and security guards for the Jewish leaders. I want to read it to you in the book of John. It starts off like this. It says, Jesus, because he knew everything that was going to happen to him, came to them. And so picture this scene here. It's dark still. Maybe they can't quite picture or figure out which one is Jesus, and there's almost this sense of a standoff. Jesus and his disciples on one end, and then Judas in this battalion of soldiers on the other end. And there's this pause. And then what happens next is Jesus actually approaches them. "Who are you looking for?" And they replied, "Jesus the Nazarene." And he told them, "I am he." Very important phrase that Jesus uses right there. I'll come back to that. Now Judas, the one who betrayed him, was standing there with them. And so Jesus said to them, "I am he." And then it says that they retreated and they fell to the ground. Picture that. At the mere words, "I am he," these hardened, experienced, tough soldiers, trained, disciplined, fall back and fall on their faces. And so Jesus asked them again, "Who are you looking for?" Because they obviously didn't answer. And they said, "Jesus the Nazarene." And Jesus replied, "I told you I am he. If you are looking for me, let these men go." And he said this to fulfill the words that he had spoken. "I have not lost a single one of those whom you gave me." Now in the English translations it's difficult to pick this up, but in the Gospel of John, John has already established for us who Jesus is. And you go back to chapter 8 and Jesus has this encounter with the Pharisees, and they're talking about, who does he get his authority from? Who does he think he is to say these things? In his famous statement when he says, "I am. Before Abraham was, I am." And it was a clear, without a doubt, a reference to Yahweh in the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, when God met Moses at the burning bush. And so, I don't know why, but the translators add, maybe for, so English flows better, but they add the word he, "I am he." But in the literal Greek, it is the exact same phrase, "I am." And it just shows that we just saw Jesus in the garden, vulnerable, weak, asking for a way out. But now we see him poised, under control, knowing exactly what is about to happen. Jesus is not a victim here. Jesus is not, caught up in this thing and he's unable to get out of it. Jesus knows exactly what's happening. And yet, it's like he gives them a little glimpse of who he is and his power. At the mere mention of his name, "I am," they fall backward and they fall down on their faces. It just shows you that Jesus at any moment could have stopped this, at any moment could have gotten out of it. He had the power to do that, and yet he humbled himself not only to the point of becoming a man, taking on human flesh, he humbled himself and became a servant. You know, the book of Philippians has a great verse that reminds me of what just happened to these soldiers in this moment. It's as if they had no choice. At the mere mention of God's name, they fell down prostrate. In the book of Philippians, Paul tells us that there will be a day where every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. And they will either do that willingly, or when they face Jesus, they will have to do it. They won't have a choice. They'll do it simply because Jesus is who he says he is. You know, I don't know about you, but I have had to learn the hard way. I'm a slow learner. That the act of surrender, like we talked about yesterday, and the act of bowing, the act of kneeling, the act of surrendering is something that I need to do on a daily basis, reminding myself of who Jesus is and who I am. He is worthy of our worship. He is worthy of our devotion and our adoration. You know, for some people, Jesus is a divine vending machine. And there's a sense, you know, if I just push the right buttons, if I put in the right coins, pull the lever the right way, then I will get what I want. And we simply can't come to Jesus that way. At some point, we have to recognize he is God and we are not. And we surrender, we bow before him. And like I said, either we will do that willingly in this life, or we will have no choice in the next. And so I encourage you today, whatever's going on, man, the world's in chaos. People are scared. People are starting to get irritable. I got barked at the other day because I was standing a little too close to the register at the post office. Somebody went postal on me. But it's strange, and there's that sense that people are starting to get scared, and people are starting to get uptight and irritable, and we've been enclosed for a couple of weeks already, and it may continue to get worse. And so prepare yourself, and prepare your heart, and prepare your mind. And you can do that by just recognizing who God is, and bowing before him, and adoring him, and worshiping him, and surrendering your life to him. And even if you've done that before, I believe, and I've said this before, it's something we need to do on a regular and daily basis. Just remind ourselves of who he is. And it may look like the world's falling apart, but like in this scene, in this orchard or in this garden, Jesus was in complete control, and he is in complete control of the world today. And so rest in that, trust that, lean into that, and let that fill you with a sense of poise, same kind of poise Jesus had. Let that fill you with a sense of confidence, and the same kind of confidence that Jesus had in this moment. So God bless you, and I look forward to being back with you again tomorrow.